Smile and show those pearly whites. We're about to embark on a healthy journey. You are listening to the Whole Healing Radio Show with your host, integrative dentist Dr. Amy Dayries. Can our teeth be the roadmap to our health? Well, Dr. Dayries will be exploring new pathways to pairing dentistry with health, showcasing cutting-edge medical practitioners from around the world. She will shine a light on natural healing pathways that get you and your family accurate and empowering information to live the life you desire. Discover empowering life strategies as she integrates dentistry and whole body healing. So show off your smile. Your health can use it.
You're listening to the Whole Healing Radio Show with me, your host, Dr. Amy Dayries. I'm a dentist in Roswell, Georgia. And tonight's show is on what is brain balance. We're going to be speaking with two experts in the Atlanta area on how they help kids with a lot of different sensory type issues and focus issues. And they work at a company called Brain Balance that has multiple locations. If you would like to say hello or have questions maybe about things that your family might be struggling with, please feel free to telephone us and maybe have your question answered at 678-495-4345. That's 678-495-4345. And so tonight's topic is what is brain balance? And I have with me Deana Smith, and Monica Martinez. And they work with Brain Balance, which has been around since about 2007. And I wanted to talk and have you all come out, and I'm so pleased you can come because I do a lot of work with various mouth appliances, oral appliances that can help kids sleep better and remodel airways. And there's a variety of those. One's the ALF, the ALF, and another's one by a company called Vivos. And so I had crossed paths with you all because some of the work that I do might be overlapping with some of the work that you all do, or maybe a lot of the work you all do. It's a lot of kids struggling with sleep, and that can sometimes be manifested in other types of issues like sensory issues or focus issues. And so I'm so thankful you're here on the show tonight, Deana and Monica.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us, Amy.
So let's talk about brain balance in a nutshell. Even though we have a whole hour, I'm going to put this away.
Okay. So what would you like to know? You start the...
Sure. So I contacted you all because we're going to have, and we have overlapping patients that have maybe come to see me because they aren't sleeping well. But a lot of these kids are very, very sensitive with sensory things. Maybe it's tags in clothing or in seams in socks that bother them, or belts. That's something I've noticed with a lot of the kids. Or maybe they're picky eaters, or maybe they are really struggling in school to get their homework finished in a timely fashion. Maybe they have temper tantrums a lot later than where you would expect those types of things to maybe slow down or sort of disappear. And that's why I contacted you all. Those are some of the topics I think you all cover with kids. But Brain Balance really has a comprehensive program where you're incorporating, I think, using or training the brain to use more of both sides of the brain in a more consistent fashion, in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to talk with you all tonight here on the air on the show tonight about some of those modalities. How do you wake up parts of the brain and connect that left and right side together so that the developing brain has a coordinated way to now more effectively communicate, maybe get along with their peers, and work through some of those things that are difficult. They're more resilient because they have more strategies.
Sure.
Right. Yep. So everybody coming into the center deals with things that you're listing. So all of those symptoms, things that we can see. So our goal is to get to the root of the problem. We want to be able to connect the dots for families and really just be able to provide answers as to why they are struggling. And a lot of that stems back to those sensory motor areas that, for instance, haven't developed or maybe were missed. So it is all about just making new pathways and connecting just more and more so that we can operate fully functionally with the left and right hemispheres of the brain.
That's really cool.
We're a developmental model. We see children from about 4 to 17. We did have a college reboot program this summer. That was our first time we did college kids. But this developmental model that we work with, it is it's so unique in the sense that it is the only hemispheric integration model
Right.
in the whole world.
Wow.
Yes. And we've had families come from all over the world. We've had to relocate to get this program.
Wow.
At the center in Roswell, we've had families from Saudi Arabia, Spain. I've worked at other centers as well. We've had families from Egypt, South America. Where else?
That's a lot of the world.
Yes.
Yes, but it's so unique in that sense that we are addressing this disconnect, if you will. We call it a functional disconnect. The timing difference between the two hemispheres is just not there. The signals are not connecting. The neural pathways are not strong. You've got one side of the brain that's basically developing at a different pace than the other. So what that looks like are signals being missed. So you don't have that constant communication going back and forth that's vital to the optimal performance of the brain. I love this analogy. I say it to all our families that come in for consults. It's a very easy analogy.
But a great one.
Right? It's
Yes.
like a Wi-Fi connection. Our brain
Okay.
is just like that. When you are in good connective service, everything processes quicker. When you're stuck in a rainstorm or in, bad connectivity, things process slower and they get glitchy.
That's when you get that beach ball thing on your computer screen.
Absolutely. That's
Yes.
exactly what you got.
Mhm.
So we focus on that weaker side of the brain. So we do a very intense multisensory stimulation, the way the brain develops organically from the bottom up through all of our senses, our environment, but we're doing this hemispherically. And that is the key to how we see a lasting change, how we have families come into us and they are able to have their child perform, and children that are struggling with things like ADHD, dyslexia, all that kind of stuff, lack of focus. And we can get more into, the kind of symptoms that we're dealing with later, but how they can do that without medication.
That's fabulous. Especially, I love the without medication part
Yes.
of that. That's a major component because medications usually have side effects.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
it's nice to find something, and like you said, it's lasting. So it's not just while the child's in the program. It's
Right.
going to be something they're going to leave the program carrying those skills really and have the rest of their life in building that resilience. They've got some tools. They've got more tools in their box. So Deana, you have an experience for over 15 years working with various child programs. This is before you went into Brain Balance. Tell us a little bit more about your background. And same thing, I want to go over your background, Monica, because y'all are representative of the type of practitioners you're going to be working with if you go to Brain Balance, and you're very nurturing souls, I can see.
Thank you.
Yes, we're very passionate about what we do. But going to my specific background, I started out in early education, and I started working with a company in South Florida, and it was an after-school program, and it was called After School Program, ASP.
Okay.
But it actually, that was where my main experience was with management, childcare management, but I started out teaching.
Okay.
I've always wanted to work with children in some sense. So I started out as a teacher. Then I started out managing a certain district with preschools. We dealt with grant programs, after school programs, summer camps. We had the largest summer camp program in Broward County.
Wow.
So I've done everything from drive a school bus, which is so embarrassing. I was like 18 years old
disaster.
and I got my CDL license.
Wow.
And I'm like blasting Nirvana and stuff on the
Learning new things about Deana tonight. I never knew that. Fun fact.
Yes, it is a fun fact.
You're a Nirvana fan.
My friends I was very young
Yeah, you
driving a school
were.
bus.
Absolutely. You said you're 18 when you
I
get your
was
license?
18, 19 years
Wow.
old, driving a
you.
full on, but I wasn't
Yeah.
picking kids up at school. It was a summer camp.
Yes.
Still, though, that's pretty
And
awesome.
I had
was
to
amazing.
do that. It was, but the funny fact, when my friends used to make fun of me because I was young. So we'd go out at night and, if like I was talking to a cute guy or something, they'd be like, "Do you know she drives a school bus?" I don't know. It's just funny.
All right, that is funny.
Yes. So yeah, so my background is in all areas of childcare, special needs. I've worked as a director of a Sylvan Learning Center in the past. I've started up several different grant programs that had to do with, like, I've started up a Mandarin Montessori school.
Interesting.
Yes. I also have some marketing in my background. I also have done accounting here and there, but...
So you're bringing all this to the table if a child gets to work with you.
Yes.
Monica, tell me about yourself a little bit. I've got a bio here, but it's really nice you're sitting here. You can just tell me.
So I have a passion for psychology, studied that in school. I did start with teaching, actually, elementary education. And I've always had a passion of working with kids. So I've played soccer competitively as well as danced growing up. So I've taught both of those things, and I've just really enjoyed working with children. So when I moved from Florida to Georgia, and I knew I wanted to keep pursuing something in the realm of psychology, but also working on developmental skills or really just athleticism, Brain Balance came up. And thankfully, I was hired as a coach. And ever since 2015, I've been with Brain Balance in Roswell.
That's great. So y'all have Brain Balance is at 4 locations, but you all are continuing to expand because it's so successful and effective. But y'all are both at the Roswell location, which is near my office. So I'm very, very blessed to be close with y'all. Let's start talking. So if you're a parent, and we will cut to a commercial break in just a minute, but just to start, like, I'm a parent, I'm struggling. I'm having issues with my son or daughter who are, like I mentioned earlier, maybe they're having temper tantrums. I just can't reach them. Or maybe they feel like they're sliding back. Do you all talk about the whys, why these things happen with people? How can I understand so I can start to reach my child as a parent? That's
You mean the first
key.
step?
Yeah, what do I
First
do?
step
I
would
call
be getting
you
your
all.
child assessed. The comprehensive assessment that we do takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And we're looking at the whys. We're looking at root causes, everything underneath the surface. If you think about surface level stuff, you see the symptoms, you see the grades, you see the behaviors. We're not giving you coping skills. We're going to go back and look at things as early as in the womb that should have happened.
Right.
And then we're going to hit milestones that could have been missed. And do you want to add on some of the things that we look at?
Sure. So in talking about an assessment, and when a family comes in, we're also going to speak with them. So while their student is, or their child is working with one of our coaches, we are speaking with the family. So we can get even more information about what are they seeing at home? Maybe what is school seeing? Yes. And so when we do explain this to families when they're coming in, it's really going back to foundational skills. So at the foundation of development are primitive reflexes. So these are assessed in the center. We want to see, are they retaining any of these? Because if they are, that's going to be a really big roadblock in terms of development.
Yes.
So that's something that we assess, as well as things like core strength, body awareness, seeing how they feel in time and space. Are they in touch with their body? Are they not? Processing. So visual processing, auditory processing, how are they perceiving the world around them through their ears, through their eyes?
Because there's more than 5 senses, really. And I think that's what you're really tapping into here. That whole awareness of your environment.
Absolutely.
It goes beyond, what is it? Feeling, seeing, hearing, smelling, and tasting. And it puts out vibes to other people. It really puts you in a communicative sense with whoever or whatever is around you.
Yep, reading those nonverbal cues, getting social cues.
Yes, and you have to develop that. You can't be taught that. You can, and it may be slightly successful, but is it going to be a lasting change? Is it going to be something that your brain really develops and retains? Maybe not. So that's why it's really important to go back to that, develop it, get it to functional levels so that we really can see this ability.
Monica and Deana.
Yes.
So you touched on a minute ago, Monica, about the primitive reflexes. That is something we sort of look at a little bit too when we're assessing kids for some of these oral appliances. Sometimes there's been a birth trauma. Maybe it's not even something that we know happened, but sometimes these reflexes that should go away at 9 months, 12 months of age, they just don't. So I thought maybe we could just touch on what a few of those are. I can do that too if you're not comfortable, but you seem very
and how they tie to
Yes.
So going back to the example that you gave before of tantrums. So if I'm seeing tantrums, why is this happening? Immediately, that's something that we're going to look at in terms of if we've assessed it and let's say he or she has retained that reflex. That's going to be a huge reason as to why you do see trouble regulating emotions. And you are going to get these overreactions to a situation. And that Moreau reflex is your fight, flight, or freeze. So it is going to activate and just really not allow for you to use higher logical or cognition in those times, those heated moments. Yes, you're very reactionary. And if you think of the word primitive, that's what's happening. You're surviving.
Yes.
So you've got a lot of adrenaline going, you've got cortisol going. So that child is stressed out.
Sounds like your amygdala is just going crazy.
Yes. So the regulation ability just is not there. And not only is that going to affect behavior in terms of tantrums, but focus. Because you're in that heightened state, you are more prone to paying attention to maybe a sound outside rather than the teacher speaking or the lights flickering above. So it starts to affect academic work and then just trickles on into other things too.
Very interesting.
Maybe we should just talk about what they are really quick. Just
Okay, sure.
for
I think that's
anyone
great.
That
really helpful.
Doesn't really understand what the primitive reflexes are. So we look at 8 of them.
Okay.
What do you look at more than 8? Oh,
Let's just go over the ones you do.
Okay, sure.
We look at a lot of this, but let's go over yours.
So we look at 8 primitive reflexes. And primitive reflexes are basically these fight or flight, like Monica said, survival instincts that we're born with. So some of them form as early as in the womb, like the startle reflex, the Moreau reflex she was just talking about. You could actually startle your baby at like 22 to 25 weeks in utero. So some of them are there for the birthing process. There's one called the spinal gland. It's actually the wiggle movement getting ready for that process.
Wow.
So others being like the grasp reflex. You stimulate the palm of an infant and they just grab your finger. The rooting reflex.
Sure. Where they're hungry.
You basically just know how a baby comes out. They just latch on and some do not. And that is a lack of that reflex. So these are all there for that survival. And then we'll go over some other ones. But they live in our brainstem. As Monica had said, they're in that very primitive area. Our brain develops from the bottom up, as we said, and we're working out of an area down here in that pons area of the brain. So it is just basing everything off different reactions of more of emotion, like a traffic cop giving out signals with a blindfold on almost.
Interesting.
So
I like that analogy.
Yes. So then we are about a year of age, but by that time, our brain organically, naturally should be integrating all of these reflexes because doing them is what integrates them.
Okay.
So retaining these reflexes for whatever reason is why we're seeing this roadblock. So
interesting.
Continue. Yes, it is. It really is amazing how many symptoms you see that tie into these reflexes.
Yes.
From
asymmetrical tonic neck, ATNR for short, because that one is very long.
That's a complicated.
It is the crawling, stimulated through crawling. Same with symmetrical tonic neck. So a lot of families coming in that, especially if you are seeing hand-eye coordination struggles, tracking struggles with the eyes, reading, focus again. So all the symptoms, again, that's what we see. But then going back to that basis of development, if something like that is in the way, you have to address that, or else you're not going to see changes by just addressing symptoms only.
I've understood, you just made me think, I've understood that with maybe, in some cases at least, with some people that suffer from dyslexia, that it may be that they are not able to continuously track something left to right.
Absolutely.
That their eyes skip, and so they go up or down, or they just don't go track across.
Their visual perception is skewed. I was explaining that to a mother today because she was saying how, actually it was a teacher, sorry. She was explaining how this student, he he will start writing, but then his letters get larger and they also start to go diagonally. So explaining to her this reflex that he does still have, and that is making him perceive that line as moving.
Wow.
So letters can move, they can reverse, they can float.
Yes.
You know, just to even think of that or having life and perceiving things like that just really helps us to have even more compassion for these children because they're struggling.
Yeah.
That's hard.
They're like a duck. You don't know how hard they're paddling under the water.
Yes.
They might,
and they're trying so hard, and then to be told to try harder, or you're not doing it well enough. And a lot of it is just actual sensory motor skills that need to be developed.
In my world, we oftentimes look at the tongue and what the tongue is doing. You were talking about the rooting reflex. Yes. Like an infant has those little bumps on the front, what we call the premaxilla, the front of the roof of the mouth. And that's where they would suckle. You know, the tongue stimulates that, and they get milk. And a lot of the kids that have a tongue thrust or a downward movement with their tongue, or they have a bottle shoved in there instead of nursing, they don't have that soothing, because that's a soothing motion too. So some of my appliances help with encouraging the tongue to go up in the roof of the mouth.
Yes, I love that. I really do.
So,
yeah, to me, that's development.
It is.
Developing.
We're just supporting what the body wants to do by encouraging or saying hello over here. And you really get profound results, because that's what it was meant to do.
Yes, you're maximizing that ability.
Yeah.
I was really fascinated when we went to your office at everything that you guys are doing. And we've referred several families recently over there, because I feel like it would work really well, you know, with what we're doing anyway. It's just something else.
Well, same here. Yeah. Y'all are lots more comprehensive, because I'm just about, I'm a dentist in the end too. But so we talked about the reading reflex. We talked about the crawling. We have a phone call.
Oh,
all right.
We have a phone call.
All right.
Okay.
Everybody put their headphones on.
Exciting. Oh, I didn't know where.
Thank you for calling somebody.
Do we have headphones?
There you go.
Hi, this is Indira Hodge.
Hello, Indira. It's Monica.
Hi.
Thank you for calling in.
And Deana and Amy.
No problem.
Hi, Indira. How are you? This is one of our parents.
Very cool.
That called in. How awesome.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your family's experience with brain balance?
Yeah, so my little one, right brain weak, and we were having a lot of behavioral issues and just very emotional, a lot of sensory issues, a lot of things that were misdiagnosed by a lot of different doctors and teachers and professionals, and he actually was kicked out of the school due to his behavior. And so kind of out of desperation, we found Brain Balance, and it's been the best thing that we could have ever done. They've just been amazing from day one. They were able to, kind of put their finger on the pulse where we were, had been trying for almost a year to kind of figure out what was going on with our little guy. And they were able to tell us things about him that, nobody else was able to figure out. And we affectionately called him the fun doctor, and he absolutely loved going there every week.
That's awesome.
He was excited to go to the fun doctor every week after school.
You have to see this kid. Oh, my God.
He loves his exercises. We've graduated from the program now, and he still does his exercises every night with his daddy.
Aww.
And he's very proud of how many exercises he can do, and that he can do them on his own like a big boy. And everybody from the director at his daycare to his teachers to other teachers that he wasn't even in their class have all commented on how good he's been and how they've just seen a complete 180 in him, and how he's just like the sweetest boy now, and he's just calm and comfortable in his skin, and he's so mannerable and happy. And it's just been the best experience. I can't say enough about how much
it is really beautiful. That's all any parent wants.
To see all the coaches when we go back to visit and say hi.
Yeah, and your family. This is an example too. This program is a process, and if you trust the process, you're going to see these amazing, miraculous changes. But this family was so dedicated, and that's what we need. We need families that will trust the process and do what we're asking them to do. Indira, it's nothing crazy to do at home, right?
No, it's not. I mean, I think probably the most difficult thing was just getting your mind around the diet because it's, just learning how, and it's something we should all be doing anyways, right? But
Right.
like just reading labels and figuring out what you're really putting into your kids, that took me a little bit, but the exercises weren't hard. No, it wasn't.
Is that him?
Yes. Braxton, you want to say hi to Miss Deana and Miss Monica?
Oh.
Okay, hold on.
Oh my gosh.
So happy.
Say hi. Hi, Miss Deana.
Oh.
Hello, Braxton.
Hi, Braxton. Thank you for calling in, buddy.
You're welcome.
Thank you for helping me do my exercises.
Oh, you're welcome.
Oh, buddy, you are a champ. You're our little hero.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am brilliant.
Oh, you
Yes.
are.
Oh, my
Yes, you are. You are awesome.
Oh gosh,
Funny.
Yes,
Oh.
and hilarious.
he is. He is just.
But he loves doing the exercises, and he shows his friends at school, and it shows his teacher, and it's just good now. Even we can kind of pull on those resources now that we've done it. Whenever we feel like, oh, let's pick up the pace, and we'll do exercises with him now, and he thinks it's fun. So
How
it's
old
nothing
is he?
crazy.
How old is your
He's
son
4.
now? He's 4. So how old was he when y'all started?
He was almost 4, so he's
Okay.
been there
Yeah.
about 6 months.
That's great.
Mhm.
Well, we
So
appreciate.
he's just been great, and the directors can't say enough. They actually are recommending it to other kids that could benefit from it. So
At his preschool.
That's wonderful.
yeah,
Well, we really appreciate you calling in. That really
Thank
makes
you,
a difference
Indira.
to
Yeah,
hear from
thank you
somebody
so
who's done
much.
it.
thank you guys.
We
so
love
much.
you guys.
Yeah, we love you guys.
We love you guys too. Braxton, say bye-bye. Bye.
Bye,
Braxton.
Braxton.
All right, bye-bye. If you all are interested out there, listeners, in finding out more specifics or how to schedule an appointment with Brain Balance, you can go to www.brainbalance.com. And there's also a 1-800 number. And they have 4 locations around Atlanta. They are expanding. There will probably be more in your area soon. But there's a telephone number that's a 1-800. It's 1-800-877-5500. Do people need to always do the appointments in person? Or when you all screen, do you ever go out in the community to see like the environment the child's in? How do you know a lot of stuff?
Them coming in the center.
So
Yes.
it couldn't be remote. You need to go ahead and be able to come to a Brain Balance, and y'all do have people that travel in. It's about 6 months, the full program for most people.
Yeah, the average program is about a 6-month program, but we go by sessions.
Okay.
So after, we would recommend how many sessions based on the initial assessment.
What's the youngest that you would bring your child?
4.
4 years old. So they're starting to get into pre-K. That's really when probably things are you're starting to notice they shouldn't be having temper tantrums.
Yes.
They are trying to get along. It's not parallel play anymore.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
We can see these things as early as 18 months, but we start helping children at around 4.
Okay. What about, we're not talking about labels or labeling kids here, but if you were to name labels of types of kids that sometimes you see, it's certainly not everyone. You may not have a label. I never wanted to have some of my kids officially tested with things because I wasn't sure about labels. We just have to cope in our world. But
Yep.
I'm sure y'all have worked with autistic kids in the past sometimes, or dyslexic kids, or
Yeah. ADHD,
ADHD,
oppositional
ADA.
defiance disorder, anxiety, depression, dyslexia, learning
Processing.
disabilities.
failure to thrive
Mm-hmm.
in different, but it could be almost any
It
capacity.
really,
Yeah.
anything social, emotional, behavioral,
Academic.
or academic. There's children, something interesting. We do work with a lot of children that have that quote unquote label of ADHD,
Okay.
which is just such a broad label
Mhm.
for a
Yeah.
kid that can't focus.
Yeah.
So, an interesting fact that we've come to see, and I personally have seen this with my own child that went through the program, that diagnosis or diagnoses of ADHD type 1 is inattentive. And then there's type 2, which is hyperactive. And then there's the type 3, which combines them both. But we've noticed that the type 1, the inattentive type, really is a processing issue.
All right.
So it's more of a learning disability most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. So we have kids that are actually being misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
I
do see
am-
that
Yep.
often.
And I'm a current, I'm someone who had that happen to me. And after assessing my own child, it was crazy because I was working there and I see all these kids coming in the center and these changes. And of course, you want to have your own kid assessed.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. You
it
see the
was-
benefit.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I just remember just getting these answers, just the whys, So auditory processing was, something that is really a learning disability. It's the inability to follow multi-step directions. It's the inability to filter out the background noise in
That's
a classroom
such
setting.
a common.
It's
thing
so
now, I
common.
think.
If you think about the classroom setting and all the kids that are in the classroom and they're moving their desks.
Definitely.
And if you're unable to filter out that background noise and other kids are talking and you can't hone in on the teacher and some words may be blending.
Yes.
I mean, if a teacher said something like way and doll, you might have heard wall,
Okay.
so it sort of made sense, but not really. So maybe you were getting lost.
Okay.
And then, if you team that or tie that into visual processing, and if you're struggling with that or in visual perception, even taking it in, you've got two things going on right there that it's just going to make you, think about what you're doing later or, something else because you've lost what the teacher's saying.
Right.
And
You're
it's not
missing
even
information.
Right. So if you're not that kid that's hyper and all over the place, sometimes it is more of a true learning disability. So
do you have tips? Do you all work with that too? I mean,
oh yes.
so let's talk about some of those techniques in a nutshell.
Sure.
And I know that when I've come to your facility, it's like there's almost like a mini jungle gym that's inside or gymnasium. You've got a balance beam. You've got colors everywhere. You've got cool glasses that light up. Toys. It's a really fun place.
Right.
Yes.
Just like Braxton said, it is fun.
Fun doctor. That's what he calls us.
It
a
is fun.
Doctor.
And
Not
that's
doctor, so.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the program. We want to make it fun. That's a rule at Brain Balance. You need to be having fun.
How long are they there for? And is it okay? Do any of them have separation anxiety? Can their parent go back? Or
Yeah, absolutely. We have had some, especially more recently, students facing anxiety that parents were not even sure if they were going to be able to complete the assessment. And the really neat thing is because it's so fun and because we're all so welcoming and just wanting to help, students become comfortable very quickly. There's a boy that mom was not able to leave him for the assessment, but now after 1 month of program, he's saying bye to her at the front door.
Bye.
Yeah. I'm going to go have fun for an hour. I'll see you afterward.
Okay.
And he's actually one of our teen students.
Cool.
Yes.
Oh, I'll see y'all see teenagers too.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. We have a lot of teams.
Yes.
But yeah, the anxiety there, especially not wanting to go or being unsure of what the process is something that we like to make everybody feel really comfortable about coming in.
That's so cool. Y'all, we have another telephone call.
Oh,
So we appreciate anyone calling in. If anyone else out there would like to, they're like what they're hearing or would like to address a personal question, you can call us at 678-495-4345 here on the Whole Healing Show with Brain Balance. So hello, I think we have a caller.
Yes, hello. Dr. Amy's Tim Ray.
Oh my gosh. Hey, Tim, how are you? This is
Wonderful. You ladies
is-
are just doing an incredible job. Attention deficit is such a needed topic to discuss, and I know you're talking about
He's the head of the UI.
potential different.
Oh, hi.
Wonderful.
Thank you for
Glad you're
calling in.
Hello. I know you all you're talking about potential solutions and also what you can do to handle these situations, and also not just jumping right into the drug regimen, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So my question is, and it's a tough question, but I'm going to ask it to you all anyway.
We like tough questions.
There's many different sources, kind of like in reference to autism. Autism has turned into a whole industry. You have schools, teachers now all dealing with kids with autism. It's an industry in itself, feeding in it on each other. The same thing with attention deficit. Forget the psychiatry, but it's all about it's all an industry now feeding into each other. You have attention deficit. This is the routinely going through. These are programs. You're all popping up, assisting people in this. Now, what if we were able to go to the cause of why attention deficit is occurring? You could always say it's always been there, or maybe population increases, but there is a certain degree of attention deficit that has occurred because of we don't know for sure. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things I discovered recently, and if you all could speak to this, I'd appreciate it, is it may be also related to potential vaccines. The vaccines that we get versus the vaccinated kids now, and the studies being done on vaccinated kids versus unvaccinated kids are finding out they're not suffering so severely by attention deficit versus the kids who have been vaccinated. Do you see any correlation with that at all to potential why kids are more suffering from attention deficit than ever before? And just like to hear your input on that.
Sure. We have a lot of families that swear that, they've seen a dramatic difference in communities. There's a lot about that. We are not for or against vaccinations, but a theory could be that if you already have what we call that functional disconnect, that could just put your body into that, for certain children, fight or flight, mode, and put you back to those primitive reflexes, if that makes sense. So whenever our body feels trauma, and that can be different in any child, it doesn't have to be the obvious trauma. I mean, yes, it can be physical, verbal abuse, things like that, but it could be a food sensitivity. It could be a vaccine. It could be something, an inflammation inside. So absolutely, and we're also noticing, the technology. This is the technology age.
Right.
So the increase in anxiety and behavioral issues and all that we've seen with, the processed foods as well.
And maybe a lack of personal connection sometimes.
Oh, absolutely, Amy. That's a good one too. Yes.
Yeah, that is such a difficult question because there is not one answer, in my opinion. There are many pieces to the puzzle. I feel like we say that a lot in the center because that's true. There are maybe nutritional.
That's true. I know you mentioned
affecting.
I want to talk about that too.
A sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah.
Maybe we go back to mom's pregnancy. What was that like? What kind of things happened? Also, too, we are just more and more as a society going to a less focused, or, just constantly being rewarded with quick information. So doing things long term is a lot harder. Yeah, I think there's a lot of answers to that.
Also brings a good point. So our left side of the brain, and we'll talk more about the hemispheres too. And
we want to because we've got so much still want to cover.
Oh yeah,
I know time's like flying by.
Wow, it really did.
I know.
So what we look at is we have this hemispheric approach. Are you still there? I don't even. Is he still?
Is he still? Okay, perfect. Thanks, Tim.
Do you have anything else did you want to ask?
No. I was just curious about your take. If you have just by your studies have looked at kids who have been vaccinated versus kids who have not. If there's been anything, but that's fine. You answered my question. I do agree with you that there are probably many variables involved in here. I was just curious.
Yes.
I've been reading up on and learning that a lot of these unvaccinated kids, which is not a lot of studies done, especially definitely not by our CDC, is that they're finding out that they lack attention deficit.
Yeah.
Right. I find that fascinating, and I'm wondering if there's any correlation that you have seen in your studies. But thank you, ladies, so much. You're doing a wonderful job. This is such a hot topic. Hey, Dr. Amy, I hope you continue with it. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
You too.
So we do, speaking of studies, this is really, really amazing. Harvard is currently doing an independent study on us.
Okay.
And yes, I have, it's not complete. So there's 9 kids in this study, and it's on ADHD. And I brought the one page that we have just to give you an idea of, let me take these out too. Of
break. We have to do a break in a second.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about the Harvard study in just a minute when we come back. Our topic tonight is what is brain balance? And we have the ladies, a couple of the senior ladies from Brain Balance here. They work with kids of really all ages from about age 4 through the teenage years to help build resilience and connect parts of the brain that aren't working as optimally as they could. And these are skills that the kids can take to use at school or to interact socially or just to get along more easily in life with less stress, less anxiety.
Yep.
We talked about how you get assessed.
Yes.
Let's go into just some of the fundamental things you're looking at. You're looking at nutrition for kids, for example.
Yep, that's part of our program.
Okay.
We give that, we have a whole program called Balance 360 where we're looking at certain food sensitivities and giving you resources like recipes. If you shop at Trader Joe's, what are certain brands that are recommended? You get appointments with a registered dietitian. So that's a whole piece of the program as well, yes.
What other pieces are there?
So like we were talking about before, the primitive reflexes, that is something that we want to heavily address. So for some families, they are going to be doing exercises. For instance, we spoke with Indira earlier.
Yes.
That's what she's speaking of, are exercises to address those reflexes, as well as giving recommendations on remaining physically active. So motor movement,
Yes.
huge. We always recommend keeping them moving, as well as reducing screen time.
Reducing
Another hot
screen
topic.
time is another hot topic.
Another topic in itself. It's
Yeah.
actually to that left side of the brain, it gives this immediate gratification, which it seeks, which is just if you already have, say, a very overactive or strong left side of the brain, which a lot of our children do. That's something I really do want to get into is what you see as an imbalance on the left and the right side.
Let's talk about that. The left and the right
Sure.
sides for somebody who might not have ever considered
Yes.
this or run into this.
So I think we're all a little bit more left or right brain dominant. I see tests online and all that kind of stuff. But what we're looking for here is a significant imbalance, a desynchronization or an imbalance of just, again, that connectivity, the timing that's going back and forth, that constant communication that needs to happen. So the left brain is responsible for our positive emotions, is responsible for it's that logical, linear thinking, fact-seeking side of the
Math.
brain, our IQ.
Okay.
Our right side of the brain is our EQ. So it regulates our emotions. It's the out-of-the-box, abstract thinking. So if you think about a child, say, let's just use the label of Asperger's.
Okay.
That's one of our biggest disconnects. You have a left side of the brain that is, we've had kids in third grade on collegiate levels. And then you've got on the right side of the brain, some areas are functioning out of that of a 3 or 4 year old. And, you know, they can't sit across from you and just have a back and forth conversation.
Right.
And that's where, if you're going to continue to stimulate that left side, we've got that imbalance. So if you think about going to a gym and if you're working out bilaterally, your arms, and you've got one weaker arm, your arms are going to get stronger. But if you stop and focus on the weaker arm and then do bilateral, you're going to catch it up. So that's really what we're doing. We're working on that. We're giving the left side is our gas pedal. The right side is our brake pedal. So if you don't have that brake pedal, you are going to see impulsivity. You're going to see hyperactivity, a lot of go, 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 and not enough, okay, you need to sit down, you can calm down. And same thing with racing thoughts. We have kids that are very left brain strong that are thinking about things they shouldn't be thinking about at a young age, like death. And their anxiety on both hemispheres. It's interesting. If you have an overactive right hemisphere, you know, you can have a very strong right brain.
Wow.
And you can get anxiety because your brain, it doesn't shut down. You know, you're constantly thinking of different ways. And those are usually our creative, our performers and musicians, all those kind of people. And then you've got the academics, you know, the people kids that walked really, really early. You know, like 8 months old, and the parents are like, wow, I've got an Einstein on my hands. And, you know, and then they start getting older and they struggle with things like socialization or
the common sense things, maybe.
Yes.
Making eye contact.
Yes.
Yes.
It looks like all kinds of different things. You can also not have a underactive. Well, one of them is developing at a different pace. So you can have a strong left brain and a right brain that's not weak, but it's not caught up with that stronger left brain. So it doesn't mean that you're deficient on the right side of the brain. It just means that, again, you don't have that synchronization going on.
So could you maybe give an example, general example of, okay, so I do think we have a lot of, personally, left brain dominant people nowadays because you have things that are sought after in society. Let's build up our math skills. We have screen time. We have to use our smartphones, or we think we do, computers. So how would you go about building a right side of the brain?
One of the biggest things that I would recommend to a family is moving your body. So the right side houses your gross motor skills. So anything that keeps you physically active in terms of moving your entire body, walk, even something as simple as going for a walk, riding your bike, jumping on the trampoline, going out in nature, hiking. Also, too, if you can't go outside, doing things that do speak more to the abstract thinking. So playing a game of Clue, board game, or a game that makes you infer, playing charades, storytelling.
Very fun.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good example too. We break down too. We also deal with cognitive. So we're looking at cognitively what the function is looking like as well.
Yes.
And I just saw the Harvard study.
Oh, we got to talk about the Harvard study.
Yeah, we'll go back
too.
to that too. But we are doing something called Cambridge Science right now that we're piloting, and that's giving us an idea of how different areas of the brain are working and all that kind of stuff. So the program does include cognitive as well as sensory motor. So if, just say when we were, well, I don't know but when I was younger, I was outside all the time.
Sure.
You know, your
I think
parents,
a lot of us were.
Parents just said dinner time and you came running in.
Yeah.
So all of our senses were being fulfilled. We're outside. I can smell the grass. I can feel, the grass. I can visually see it. But now we're getting so much artificial stimulation when we're not.
That's so true.
Constantly outside.
You play with, I know my kids had a computer game where you were growing a plant. I'm like, look, we have them right here. Help me out.
Go outside and grow a real plant. Everyone's, building farms and buildings outside. Get Lincoln logs or whatever and build the real stuff. That is really, it's amazing. But we have this society now that is just bringing, as you said, that left side of the brain, it's stimulating it, and not in a good way, in a negative way.
It's shutting down half of your brain.
Yes.
What is being left untapped?
Right.
So much.
So our left weak children are typically our children that struggle with learning disabilities like dyslexia, processing, auditory processing, things like that.
What about right side? Do you ever see kids anymore that are right side dominant?
Yes.
Okay.
So those are the kids with the learning disabilities.
Okay.
Those are the ones that all day long they can. So in a passage of a reading story, if they're able to inference, if they're able to draw conclusions, creative writing, our right brain strong kids are great with that. But when it comes to facts and remembering things and alphabetical order sequencing, all of that academic piece, it doesn't come easy for them. So they can, tell you a story, create a story in their brain, but when it has to come from a fact that they've learned, it's hard. And like Monica was saying before, letters could flip. To them, when they're reading a story, words may bounce, and it's all about muscles in the eyes. We have 6 muscles in each eye. How are they working together? So we look at about 9 different eye movements that have to do with, visual perception. So it's a very, very comprehensive assessment that we do, but it gives you answers. The program is life-changing. I mean, I can't tell you, we have seen with all the centers.
How many kids have y'all treated now?
Well, we have about 104 centers, I think, now around the country.
Okay, lots.
Yes. We here in Atlanta are the first centers. We have 4 centers. We have 1 in Roswell. We have 1 in Peachtree City. We have 1 in Decatur and 1 in Suwanee. So we were the first centers.
That's awesome.
And yes, we've been here for about 14 years. And we've seen in our centers thousands of children around the country. Probably 20,000 plus kids have gone through this program.
So anyone out there listening, if you're wanting to get in touch with Brain Balance,
I'm going to give you our local number.
www.brainbalance.com or 1-800-877-5500. I wish I had known about y'all a few years back. Some of my kids were very small at that time, and we've worked through things, but this would have been awesome and way more fun than having mom make you go plant plants. Right. If you want to call a local Atlanta number for Brain Balance, 770-650-8010. Again, 770-650-8010. 650-8010. And we talked about left brain dominant, right brain.
Yes.
The Harvard study.
Yes.
We have just a couple of minutes left, and I think we'll have to have you ladies back because this is.
Yeah, we would
I
love to come
this.
back.
I love
Yes.
kids, obviously.
We're very passionate about what we do.
This just highlights the Harvard study.
Yep. So it's basically just showing on this white paper. It's very interesting when you have Harvard Medical Department of Psychiatry in charge of giving out medications saying they found profound effects with this is a
Of
piece.
interactive metronome and brain
It's part
balance
of our-
exercises.
And it's
With ADD, with kids with attention
ADHD.
deficits, ADHD.
So there's 9 kids still in the program
Mhm.
and 5 have completed. So this little picture here, which, well, maybe they can see, is showing you the difference.
We can probably post this afterwards on the link for the show,
it's
maybe.
actually kind of cool because you can see this is the inattentive and the ability to be attentive after.
So everything grows, basically.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
attentiveness,
The
abilities.
imaging after. That's the imaging after the program was
and it's
completed.
showing brain.
the connection happening.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. So if anyone in the Atlanta area is interested in having a consult or a child assessed, please contact us. Again, we have 4 centers, Decatur, Roswell, Suwanee, and Peachtree City. Our phone number at the Roswell location is 770-650-8010. You can call us. We'll, even if you need one of the other locations, we can get you connected with their center directors. And our website is brainbalance.com. Thank you so much, Amy, for having us.
Thank you for having us. Our kids are the future for tomorrow. They're going to be taking care of us if we make it to older age. And
Goodness.
so we want them to
Scary
be
thought.
as integrated as possible, as resilient as possible, and it'll help make our world a better place than it is
Sure
today.
will.
So thank you all, Monica Martinez and Deana Smith.
Yep.
For coming from Brain Balance, and we're going to have you back. Thanks so much for listening to the
you.
Whole Healing
Thank you,
Show.
everyone.
Thank
We'll see
you.
y'all in a couple weeks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi there. I'm Dr. Amy Dayries, and I'd like to thank you for downloading a copy of my book, Solve Your Sleep for Better Health. Just click on the link. Together, we'll take a closer look at what's keeping you from getting to the core of your snore